Hey everyone, Internet TCS book reader here. Today I want to talk about Before We Forget Kindness by Toshikazu Kawaguchi. This book is the fifth installment to the Before the Coffee Gets Cold series that follows a time-traveling scene in the Funikula cafe where if a person follows the rule that the cafe sets out, they can time travel to the past or to the future and stay there as long as they got back before the coffee that they serve in the present gets cold. And in failing to get back before the coffee gets cold, they will be stuck as the ghost of the cafe. The first two books makes for a really good duology. Not only is a great concept, but the concept itself is still new, still fresh with a great overarching story involving the people who work at the cafe. I might be more critical towards the series in later installment of the books, but if there's anything you get out of this video, at least read the first two books. The third one is the worst of the series. It went to another cafe in Hakodate, and while the people who work in this new cafe is relative to the people who work at Funikula cafe, having another cafe that works the exact same make the first cafe less special, like it can just pop up anywhere. I think that's partially why the author went back to the Fulikuli cafe in the fourth book and making it more like a spin-off story. While the fourth book is nowhere near as awful as the third book, it's still nowhere near as good as the first duology. It already feels like beating a dead horse, so I am honestly quite surprised that there is a fifth book still in the same series. That's why I decided to go through it to see can you remake the same song over and over again and still make it sounds good. Same as all the other books, the story will be told in a series of 4 short stories following 4 guests. The first one in the book is The Sun. First, of course, the book opens with a series of quick exposition chain explaining the people who work at the cafe, the Tokita family, Nagari Tokita, the owner, his dead wife and their daughter, and their cousin Kazu Tokita, the waiters of the cafe and the only person that can pour the coffee to start the time travel. Then the exposition continues about the rule of the time travel. First, as I mentioned before, they can only time travel once, and the time travel is only for a short window of time before their coffee gets cold. The second rule is that they cannot change the past even if they went back to the past. And the third is that only a certain seat that usually occupied by someone else can make them time travel. Then the fourth and last one is that the time traveler cannot leave their seat no matter what, or they'll be disqualified from the time travel. With that said, we are finally introduced to a 7 years old boy named Yuki Kiriyama. The boy had a typical parents who did not communicate well about what they want in life before making a child, and so they're getting a divorce now. It was when they stopped by at the cafe in the past that they decided to inform Yuki that they're getting a divorce. He cried during that time, so he wanted to try to go back to the past and not cry, which of course he failed. He's 7. He cried again when he reheard his parents told him that they're getting a divorce. But despite not accomplishing what he wanted, crying seems to at least make him feel better. Later, he decided to live with his grandfather who told him about the cafe. Then we move to the second story, The Nameless Child. It's titled that because the next guest, Megumi Sakura, was a new mom who have yet to name her child. Her husband was a firefighter who lost his life during his work because he was stabbed while preventing a fight to break out, so he was not there when their daughter was born. Not only she had that incident before she gave birth and had to endure 8 grueling hours of delivery, but she needed to register her husband before 14 days after birth that is mandated in Japan to register newborn babies, so her friend, another regular from the cafe, decided to accompany her to the cafe so she can meet her husband before he lost his life so he can rename their child. And not only that, she also wanted this as an opportunity, not just to see him and get the name of their baby, but also so he can see their baby. She went back to the past, met her husband, and who realized that he was no longer there in the future, and finally got to name their daughter Yu. Then the third story, The Father, starts. Inside the cafe, a 50-year-old man named Fumio Mochizuki was talking with his wife Hayoko. He was opposed to their daughter's marriage, and he is not giving any of his reasoning at all on why he rejected it that their daughter has gone to elope. Both of them eventually leave the cafe after they finish their conversation. While the cafe regulars are talking about what just happened, a woman suddenly appears in the special seat. She's Yoko Kawashima. In the future, she just went to the funeral of his father, and when she was talking to her mother, she mentioned that her father once visited this cafe with her. So she goes back to the past to visit her father, but he was not there. It was Fumio Mochizuki, the guy who just left a while ago, and now the only person left in the cafe was just Fumiko, a regular who is hanging out once again in the cafe. Fumiko offers to go out and find her father, but when Yoko heard that her father is near, she wanted to also go out and find him, causing her to leave her seat, abandoning the rule to never leave the seat, and was sent back to the future where she came from. Both Fumio and Yoko are stubborn people who still have not learned how to communicate like adults despite their age, so they keep butting heads since she was a child. When Yoko elopes, it didn't take long for her to get pregnant, and it didn't take long for her husband to cheat on her while she was pregnant. She got divorced, of course, but she never goes back home due to her pride, just like Fumio never call or visit his own daughter and grandson due to his pride, despite him being older and should be more mature. But when he heard that her daughter used the cafe in attempt to find him, he decided to go to the future to meet the daughter who went looking for him. This is one of the weirdest conclusions to the story. If he visited her in the future and then realized that she was having a difficult time in the present, why won't he visit her when he go back to the past? I was like, huh? That's the end? He just smiles while looking at photos of his daughter after he got back to the past? What? But we move on anyway to the fourth and last story, The Valentine, where we follow a girl named Sumugi Ito. She is best friend with a very attractive girl named Ayame, and she have a bad experience where a boy she confessed to on the past rejected her because he loved Ayame, not her. That trauma is why she have cold feet from confessing to anyone, and it also eventually made her harbor jealousy to Ayame and made her choose to drift away from her, something that she regretted more and more as she grew older and became more mature. Eventually, she went to the cafe and decided to go back to the past to visit Ayame, where she learned that Ayame still cared about her despite what she did to her, and she even cared about her more than just a friend. And that's the end of the fifth book. This feels worse than the fourth book, which honestly I can't feel most or any of the charm from the first two books of the series. The story feels like they were being hurried, especially the boy at the start. It really feels like here's villager A, here's his problem, here's the result of the time travel, okay, next. And the exploration of regret feels lacking, especially after experiencing To the Moon series by Kangao. In To the Moon, we follow two doctors, Eva Rosalind and Neil Watts, who work in Sigmund Corp, a company that founded a machine to explore someone's memory by creating an artificial memory of that person. Since it was so intrusive and it created a conflict with the real memory, the technology was only legal to perform to a comatose patient on their last day of being alive, like some kind of a wish fulfillment machine. Both Eva and Neil are much more well fleshed out than any of the characters in Before the Coffee Gets Cold. Both characters have their own strengths and flaws that affect how they tackle the problem they have to fulfill the wish of the patient, and their goddamn bleeding heart eventually will lead them to having to go through the hardest way to solve the puzzle that makes it almost impossible for them to clear the only regret that their patient have in their entire life. And since they go through a person's memory by visiting their latest memory and digging deeper to their earliest memory, we literally go backward through the entire person's life. It's a much more intimate and meaningful look into a person's life that doesn't feel like it's just another feel-good story to kill time. I still remember all three games from To the Moon series. The story, the characters, and the emotion I have when I experienced them for the first time, and I even still get emotional just from remembering them by making this video. From To the Moon series, I still remember Johnny and his wish to go to the moon. I still remember River, his childhood sweetheart that he married, and I still remember the paper rabbit that she kept making and why she keeps making them. From Finding Paradise, I still remember Colin and his unreasonable wish to undo his regrets without making too much of a change to his life, since he doesn't want to hurt his wife and son who he loved. And I still remember how his childhood friend Faye, who is missing from his adult life, will be the puzzle to solve his regrets. And in Imposter Factory, I still remember Quincy and Lindrid's story despite being confused most of the game on where Eva and Neil was because we follow the story through Quincy's eyes now. But for To the Coffee series, I can't even recall most of what happened even from the first two books that I praised so much at the beginning of this video. And at this point of the series, it feels like one of those series where the author is still making more entry to the series just because it made him money and not because he had another story he wanted to tell. I knew that the series have quite a fan base, and if they somehow found this series, it might upset some of them, but I really did not enjoy most of this book. I give this a 1.25. What do you think? Let me know if I missed anything, so leave your thoughts in the comment below and subscribe to the channel. That's about it. See ya.